Welcome to The Explainer. We are breaking down some really dramatic recent signs of de-escalation in the Middle East. And we're asking the big question, is this fragile peace actually built to last?
After a week of just massive developments that have had the entire world on edge, this is really the question on everyone's mind. So let's dive right in.
On the surface, the news looks incredibly positive. We've seen these huge breakthroughs on three absolutely critical fronts. Things that seemed almost impossible just a little while ago.
All right, so here's how we're going to unpack this whole complicated situation. First, we'll look at the crazy economic whiplash from the Strait reopening. Then, the high-stakes diplomatic game going on behind the scenes. After that, we'll dig into that really volatile ceasefire. And finally, we'll check out the fallout, both globally and right here at home.
Okay, let's start with the announcement that sent just absolute shockwaves through the global economy. Iran's decision to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The market reaction was, wow, immediate and massive. The fever that was gripping the energy markets just completely broke, with Brent crude plummeting down to just over $88 a barrel.
And it wasn't just overseas. U.S. oil prices saw an even bigger drop. It's just such a stark reminder of how critical that one narrow little waterway is to the entire global economy. In this number right here, this really captures the pure optimism on Wall Street. The Dow Jones just exploded, rallying over 1,000 points, as investors basically bet the farm on a quick return to normal.
But, and this is a huge but, the people who actually have to sail those giant tankers, they're telling a completely different story. They're not moving an inch until they know for sure that it's actually safe out there.
And the scale of this whole thing is just staggering. We're not talking about a few ships here. This is a colossal traffic jam with immense economic consequences. And, you gotta remember, huge human consequences for the 20,000 sailors who are just stuck in limbo.
Now, to add another layer of uncertainty to all of this, you've got the official U.S. position. So, while Iran says the strait is open for business, President Trump has made it really clear that the American blockade of Iran's actual ports, that's not being lifted yet.
And this is crucial. There's powerful pushback coming from inside Iran itself. You have hardliners and even reports that the new supreme leader are questioning the decision to reopen the waterway at all. This really reveals a deep internal power struggle, which makes any long-term deal feel, well, pretty unstable.
So let's shift over to the diplomatic front, because behind the scenes, there is a frantic, high-stakes effort underway to try and make this fragile peace permanent. Turns out, Pakistan has become the key mediator here, hosting these secret talks in Islamabad. Their role has been so critical that the Pakistani Air Force reportedly scrambled 24 fighter jets just to escort Iranian diplomats who were allegedly on an Israeli strike list.
So what's the holdup? Well, it all boils down to this one core disagreement over the future of Iran's nuclear program. The U.S. is demanding a full 20-year suspension. Iran is proposing a much shorter 3 to 5 year pause. That gap right there, that's the single biggest obstacle.
And President Trump has made his position crystal clear. He's publicly shot down any idea of financial incentives and is demanding a complete rollback of Iran's nuclear material, what he calls their nuclear dust.
All right, now let's shift gears to the second huge piece of this de-escalation puzzle, that ceasefire announced between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
The ceasefire was announced with this incredibly forceful, very public declaration from the White House. It really seemed like it was meant to put a hard stop to a really brutal conflict. But the reality on the ground, well, it's terrifyingly different. The truce was violated almost immediately. We have UN peacekeepers confirming shelling and Israel insisting its campaign isn't over, vowing to maintain a security buffer zone deep inside Lebanon. And these numbers, they show the absolutely devastating human toll. These aren't just geopolitical chess moves. They represent thousands of lives lost and shattered in Lebanon just since March, and in Gaza even after its own ceasefire was supposed to have started. So for our last piece here, let's zoom out and see how this whole crisis is impacting the rest of the world and how it's creating some serious pressure back home in the United States. This conflict has stretched American military resources incredibly thin, and that's led to major strategic shifts, like the full withdrawal from Syria, and it's even affecting allies in Europe, who are now seeing delays in getting crucial military hardware.
And back home, the pressure is really mounting. You have military leaders sounding the alarm, warning Congress about a readiness crisis. At the exact same time, really prominent public voices are starting to question the entire U.S. military campaign, known as Operation Epic Fury.
So we really do end right where we began. The entire world is just holding its breath, caught between this genuine, desperate hope for peace and the very real, terrifying possibility that this is all just a temporary pause before a much larger, more destructive storm to come.